The next lesson that we're working on is talking about naming variables. We've got a few challenges that we're going to cover in this video. The first is naming variables challenge 1. It says, which of the following would be an appropriate variable name for the mean height of adult males in the US? Mean, we could use mean, but that's a little bit vague. Also, if we're going to be importing some modules like NumPy or defining our own functions to actually find a mean, then this name will already be taken, right? So maybe mean is not the best option. Our next option is simply an M. Now that's not very descriptive at all. Every now and again, when you're using a variable that's kind of like a throwaway variable, you might use a single letter as a variable name, but that's usually like I for index or N for like a number of items, which is common mathematical notation. But in this context, M is probably not a good solution. Next up, we have mean of heights for adult males in the US. This is very descriptive. I know exactly what it is, but it's also very long. This is not a very good naming convention. And lastly, I think what we have is our best candidate, and that is mean height male US. We're using abbreviations where we can. I can still glean what this is likely representing just from the name itself. So let's check that answer and we can see that's actually correct. Our second challenge says, is this a good example of good naming conventions? First, we have an integer a is equal to 1. Then we have AA is equal to some string, hello world. AAA is equal to a list. This is some random. It doesn't represent anything. It looks like a random series of sequence of characters separated with an underscore. Maybe there's some method to this madness, but without previous knowledge, it certainly isn't clear. So I would go ahead and say, not only is this as a no, but this is an absolutely not, right? This is a good example of what not to do when you're naming your variables or using conventions. Now, the last challenge says, which is a better example of good variable names? Without even knowing what the enumerate function does or what this for IDX val, right? It seems like IV sort of lacks a bit of description, whereas IDX, right? That's an index. That's a pretty common convention to use for index. Val is short for value, and it seems like this is much more descriptive, right? It seems like even if I don't know what the enumerate function does, it seems like I have some idea what IDX might stand for, an index, and what a value might stand for. So I'm going to go ahead and choose the second option here, and we can see that as correct. So hopefully this naming variables using things that are intuitive, things that aren't too long, things that aren't cumbersome, but things that are descriptive of what you're actually working for makes some sense to you. That's it for this lesson. We're going to see you over on the next lesson, which is all about variable types.